Sup my duders. Today I am going to show you how augmented reality models and environments create imitations of familiar scenes. Augmented reality on your smartphone enables users to interact with images on their screen in 4 dimensions. First things first, we need to locate some augmented reality imagery for our smartphones. Search augmented reality and download whatever looks appealing to you. Fortunately, there are so many apps available, it is like we are at a Chili's. I will just grab them all, just like I do at Chili's. All these bad boys over here. Tap, double click, click. While these are downloading in the background, let's check out the models Google has available in their standard search. They have all sorts of models to choose from: molecular models, all sorts of animals, biological models, and a few for chemistry and physics. The only environment Google includes in their library currently is the Chauvet Cave in the southern region of France, where the earliest known cave paintings can be found. Let's start here. Click or tap the button that says View in 3D. It is necessary to be working in a space that has plenty of light and room to walk around. AR can be disorienting, so mind your environment. Pinch and spread to alter the scale of the model, twist and drag your fingers to change the position. Move your body to find the right angle. The Chauvet Cave is a Paleolithic cave in southern France that houses impeccably preserved, exquisite examples of prehistoric art dated to between c. 33,000 and c. 30,000 years ago. In this projection we can see there are numerous renderings of animals on the walls of the cave that are both painted and engraved. The image of Chauvet is as silent as the interior of Chauvet caves, hermetically sealed from contact with the present. On the screen here we see a life-size horse, their mouths open, which is to say that they are whinnying. Visible in the technique you can see the keen knowledge of the animal world. These images tell us a story. That is to say that these images become audible to us. You can see the movement of their legs, and you can almost hear the sound of their hooves on the ground. Acknowledging the silence of the cave, perhaps we can even hear our own heartbeats, or maybe we will be able to hear the heartbeat of these images. Looking through your smartphone, it does not take long to find the view. The aberrations of the AR shimmer spatially and predictably on the landscape. Today the eyes blink, tomorrow they will stare back. What do these balls see? Are they captivated by the cave wall? Do they look back at their ancestors and consider their humble origins? Now their hooves touch the ground, does the horse feel the weight of the world underneath it? Imagine for a moment the prophylactic threshold that keeps the horse hooves dirt-free and hoof prints off of the soil, in this case especially. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't get them to drink. Will the programs that run these images be aware of the Oscar-nominated series Planet Earth? Will they present to us the spectacle of nature we have come to expect? The hours of hunting and waiting edited away, cutting towards an impending climax. Will the eagle know we are imagining David Attenborough while it hunts the rabbit? Will the eagle personify the rabbit and sympathize with the squeamish audience before digging its talons into the nape of the rabbit's neck? Will the rabbit remain idle and exposed on open ground for human observation? Is it possible that one day, the AR rabbit will retreat to a den to hide from their AR predators? What we think we see is daunting already. Homo sapiens, that is to say you and me, can live in society because of our ability to believe in abstract and sometimes absolute ideas. That is to say fiat currency, organized religion, capitalism, unbiased journalism are imaginations that allow for a certain kind of camaraderie. Will the AR brown bear ever be as vicious as the grizzly? Will it help promote fire safety? Will it dream of its cave? The AR is far from flawless. Details of the flesh distort in pixelated close inspection, and the animation, that is to say the illusion that animates the impression of life, is summarized in a short predictable loop. These pixels will learn to imitate and successfully camouflage. What kind of cheese is nacho cheese? Finally, I can enjoy my maps from Chili's and then get to stomping in my Air Force Ones. The images of our desires are just to double tap, click away. What we see now when we look at these images are models. Lifelike, even visually convincing in the right light at the right angle, are imitations of life. These images are memories of long-forgotten dreams. Seeing comes before words. The child looks and recognizes before it can speak. But there is also another sense in which seeing comes before words. It is seeing which establishes our place in the surrounding world. We explain that world with words, but words can never undo the fact that we are surrounded by it. The relation between what we see and what we know is never settled. When we look out from our head and deliver from the heart stare, what is it that we see? Is it the detail, the color, light and shadow? Or do you notice the angler fish by the cactus? Eventually we see that it is hard to keep our eyes still, and maybe our thoughts appear in sharper contrast than the world ahead. Like these projections of childhood, pixels will get better at imitation and seamless integration of AR will be commonplace. Exploring Childhood this way, how is the cave wall different from the image on my smartphone screen? Both are surfaces that mesmerize. The auspicious glow from both reveal light and shadow blending into shape and line. Firelight illuminates a smoldering cave wall. Where is the fire that burns in my phone? The shadows it casts against my eyes look the same as the shadows cast on my eyes. By the way, the answer to the previous question was nacho cheese. But I will leave that to you, while I enjoy this giant, 8 for the price of 6, Chili's bone-full chicken piece appetizers.
Dudes, we're talking tech deck, dude!
Spider-Man's power in your hand!
It was Cabbage Patch Kid Day at the salon.
Flywheel!
Wintertime, Wonderland.
This is the Dr. Dreadful Food Lab. Super Soaker XP310.
Getting Barbie.
Command Force Chopper Patrol Micro Series!
Let's start doodling.
Ready to ride with the Power Rangers?
Creepy crawler!
Don't be pointing the finger at the thumb things. That's right. Chunky sneeze attack.
Gross me out. Disgusting.
Gory details use goof effects. What's the makes lots of gross things.
Gross. Gross. Gross.
And then you eat them.
Yeah. Kidney attack.
And then you eat them. A total monster. Squeeze them till they ooze. They're Stunsters.
Fast and how far you go depends on the fuel that you create.
Action rules and you rule the action.
3 wicked loops. Yeah! RCs.
All right.
Even bigger stunts.
Sweet.
They just got trashed and trapped.
All terrain.
Beat that.
Body gear launcher. Beat that! The Swamp Thing.
Beat that.
Over 20 extreme rescue vehicles.
Serious attitude.
And big speed.
Yeah.
With magnetic feet.
Tidal wave report.
Lived on Earth.
Finger ball.
General Kenobi and the Ark.
Weapon warriors ready for action. For action. For action. For action. For action. For action.
This baby's loaded with turtle power.
A tower packed with action.
Yeah.
With a trap door.
Yeah.
Breakaway ladder.
Yeah.
Launching platform.
Yeah.
Pulley system. And the ultimate rolling battle, the runaway mill wheel. The action.
She looks awesome. Make a big strawberry
Action ring. The new
Nothing but a
Package.
we going very.
Paper punch events.
that was
Have a battle.
Plum Princess Barbie doll twirls on her dance stand. Whirled with Nutcracker dolls and horseman carriage.
It's just me and
Jake the Avalanche.
the ball is now the
That's their ninja weapon.
Barbie says
The
they are cool.
big Care Bears. Love you.
monster.
Amazing car more than just barking. Have some pizza, Scooby.
It's Scooby-Doo Snack and Action Game.
Take 2 sticks out, put 1 stick in.
Bop to the beat, slide, switch, and bump your way home. Put the pieces into the slot. Make the right selection.
Remove the pieces and collect your feet.
Snack attack.
Attitude.
Somebody with a big truck.
First to gobble up the most marbles wins.
Build a contraption to trap the other mice, but don't get caught yourself.
You're taking aim, bouncing balls, and nailing the bullseye to sharpen your blasting skills.
Let's do this.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Just register your hits. Reload the 8
Quickfire
1000. The slow in the dark.
2 blasters in 1.
3 darts per second. Liquidtron power.
New rapid fire dart tag mag strike blaster.
Chamber barrel with darts, and you're ready for rapid fire.
You can improve your blasting speed with the map
To nail speed and accuracy. The in-strike blaster.
accuracy.
Firepower.
The Nerf pumpkin, the Nerf pumpkin, the Nerf pumpkin.
They think you fired your last shot. Switch to water.
They're all wet. Warning, you're about to see real kids having real fun with real Super Soaker blasters.
They blast with me front ways and sideways.
The CBS 2700,
The flash flood blasters.
Super Soaker EES.
CBS 2700 and 3200.
Radical new design.
Scream! 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 Huge! Hey! 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 Got more turrets!
But the worst was when Dad
Over the Aqua Pack Destiny.
He's coming back with
more water.
Pump it.
The supply in constant.
More water. 85.
25.
85. Water.
Then just aim and blow. If
They stop.
guys,
Call 1-800.
call the number on your screen.
Call 1-800-828.
Call 1-800-871-4415.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Chris Wicker, and I am a third-year MFA here at TCU. On behalf of everyone here and the art galleries at TCU, we want to thank you for joining us here today. During the summer, I was approached by the art galleries at TCU to create a response to David Blandy's how-to videos as a way of connecting MFA students to international artists. Likewise, furthering the connection the TCU art galleries has with David Blandy, as he and Larry Achiampong were part of an exhibition at Fort Worth Contemporary Arts in 2017. As a part of this micro commission put on by the galleries at TCU, myself and 2 other artists, those 2 other artists being Melissa Gamez-Herrera and Chris Evans, would view David Blandy's series of how-to videos, the more recent videos including How to Fly and How to Exist, commissioned by John Hasgard Gallery, as well as the older how-to projects like How to Make a Short Video About Extinction and How to Make a Short Video About Ideas, and respond accordingly with our own how-to videos. These videos could replicate the formula that David has created with the previously mentioned projects, or could deviate completely from the methods of a traditional how-to video and anywhere in between that. And I think you'll see that represented in the projects today. I'd like to do some quick introductions for everyone before we jump into the interview and discussion portion that all 4 of us will be a part of. So let's start with David, the resident how-to master here. David Blandy is an artist practicing in Brighton and London who utilizes multiple forms of media and methods, including the aforementioned how-to/internet tutorials, video games, music, video, installation, and much more, to effectively craft worlds and compelling narratives that offer insight on topics ranging from alter egos, YouTube tutorials, race, and the end of days, just to name a few. Moving on, we have Melissa. Melissa Gamez-Herrera is an interdisciplinary artist practicing in Dallas, Texas, who works in photography, bookmaking, printmaking, video, and other multimedia practices. Through the use of photography, Melissa speaks on issues of identity, community, and justice. Researching events related to violations of human rights, Melissa grapples with the way art can interpret and create a pathway to collective healing. Melissa earned her BA in art and art history from Colgate University in Hamilton, New York in 2014, and received her MFA in studio art from the University of North Texas in 2020. And then we have Chris Evans. Chris Evans is an artist practicing in New York City. Working in photography, sculpture, and video, to name a few, Chris has had his work published in print and online. Chris's work has also been curated into public art programs by the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, just down the street from TCU. Chris received his BFA from St. Edward's University in Austin in 2013, and he also received his MFA from the University of North Texas in 2020. And then that leaves me. Like I said, my name is Chris Wicker, and I'm a video and sound artist practicing in Fort Worth, Texas. I've recently been working in appropriated media and found footage as a way of looking back on a certain time period while considering how I'm viewing this footage, as how I'm viewing this footage now as opposed to when I first was viewing it. That relationship then colors my viewing experience and then what I pull from it. I received my BFA from Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas in 2018, and I'm currently pursuing an MFA in studio art from Texas Christian University. So, with introductions now out of the way, I'd like to turn it over to David to talk about the process of the how-to videos, where he was thinking, how he came up with this idea. So David, tell us a little bit about those ideas.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris, for having me, and thank you, Melissa and Chris, for the responses. It was really excellent to see such a diverse mixture of possibilities from this simple idea, really. I mean, it started way back in 2014 was when I made my first how-to video, which was how to make a short video about extinction. And it was a response to a couple of things. One thing, it was a commission. It was commissioned responding to the theme of extinction. And then it was also a response to some video artwork that I'd seen recently, which I felt that there'd suddenly become a whole series of tropes and kind of stylistic leanings of kind of appropriating bits from YouTube and then adding some sort of voiceover, and it then suddenly, hey presto, you've got an art video. And I thought, why don't we break this down? And you know, it kind of it started as a semi-satirical thing, like this is ridiculous, like how can there is such a kind of soulless exercise. But then as I got into it, it became also an exercise in how the voice and the projection of our voice changes meaning or changes context. So it starts in this kind of, you know, I was really fascinated by that thing in how-to videos where it feels like they're almost talking straight to you, like you're the only person in the room, or like, even though, you know, it might have like 100,000 views, or it might have 2 views. It might like, it might be some 12-year-old telling you how to make do a special effect on After Effects or something. That's how I kind of came across these things, is what I was trying to make videos, and these people knew more than me about these particular programs. So therefore I'd kind of be listening to these, and then it felt kind of really intimate and really kind of informal, like often started with like, hey guys, you know, like as though like they were friends. And then, you know, what happens if that voice then shifts into this that kind of more authoritative, kind of pseudo-objective voice of like, I mean, in the UK, it's like the BBC announcer, or kind of, you know, the David Attenborough type voice, or the like this sort of like the voice of knowledge and authority. And that's the shift that happens in that first film. And so it goes from showing you how to make the film, and it's all very like, hey, you just get this and this, and then hey presto, you got your film. And then it actually goes into the film itself, and you kind of half forget that the how-to has happened. It's still there in your memory, and it's kind of, you know, occasionally you're thinking, yeah, but like this is all made up, and I know that this soundtrack is ridiculous, and but these are actually ways that the human species could become extinct. So it kind of formed this interesting space, I thought. I enjoyed that turn, and I thought, yeah, you know, it kind of works for this film. So maybe I could try it again to do something else. So I made one about how to make a short video about ideas, and that because I wanted like a kind of almost more hopeful one, and it became about existence and things, which then when it came to lockdown and I was approached to make a video under these circumstances, I just thought that kind of going back to that method would be really interesting. And then another thing that I wanted to deal with was, in the intervening years, I'd spent a lot of time in Grand Theft Auto's director mode, which is how, you can kind of go anywhere in Grand Theft Auto and grab a bit of action and then show it from lots of different camera angles. And I knew that there was a whole series of animals in that space, so you could kind of film as a rabbit or as a deer. And then, I started getting interested in kind of the idea of animals kind of being this vessel for something. And so it was a mesh together of like, it was going to originally be the heron, because I kind of started writing a script around a heron like a few years ago, but it never kind of went anywhere. But I felt like this was something that could be interesting. And then, I kind of went into the game, looked up all the options, and the closest they had to a heron was a cormorant. So therefore, I kind of just twisted the whole thing and kind of made it about the cormorant, and appropriated lots of text from these spiritual websites. And it was made at that specific time in the UK lockdown, where suddenly you weren't supposed to go outside except to exercise. So you were supposed to go out for like, up to an hour a day. And you weren't, they didn't say you couldn't drive, but they kind of were saying you really shouldn't drive like anywhere to do that exercise. So it was like trying to, and during that time I discovered like running. Actually, I've never been a runner, never kind of done that sort of thing. And me and my family were running on near Brighton is the Downs, which is like, it's like hills and forests and stuff around there. And it's really, at certain times of day, it's really beautiful. And it just sort of became this moment of freedom and escape in this sort of the ritual of solitary confinement. So it was trying to somehow encapsulate all that in a short film somehow. And then I've been playing with this synthesizer that I got, the Korg XL or Micro XL, and started making some sounds and stuff, and that's how the soundtrack came about. So it's all kind of cobbled together from things that I had in the house. Had Grand Theft Auto, had the synth, had Premiere Pro to edit it all together on my laptop, and that's all I needed for that. Apart from and a microphone, because I needed a microphone like yours, Chris, to do the voiceover stuff. So it was kind of another experiment, but this time the register changes between like between that sort of informal, we're just chatting, like this is how you do the thing, blah, 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 into there's some moments of real artifice in that film. Like I did accidentally crash the cormorant into the bridge one time, but I kind of recreated it for the for the videos. But it's kind of, and then the voiceover is kind of laid over on top, so it's like, I'm acting surprised that this happens. Anyway, it's kind of it's acting that it's spontaneous, but then it's got this kind of yeah, it's also quasi-scripted, I suppose. And then it flips into this sort of, I don't know, almost ASMR sort of, hey, everything's cool, like kind of, you know, get inside your head, and like kind of voice, and how again that changes your kind of consumption of the image, and suddenly again, like you lose like all of that bit before, which is kind of almost semi-comedic, becomes just lost, and it's just like you're with the cormorant, and that's it. You know, How to Live was a much more yeah, it kind of echoed the two parts of lockdown for me. The first bit is sort of, you know, that almost back to nature, back to family, centering, sort of feeling like, you know, we're in a cocoon and we're going to get through this somehow. And then How to Live was where it was much more that frustration, the anger at the authorities, like feeling that in a way we had to work together to change the world, and that's kind of where that came from. So it was like, yeah, it had a bit more of a, I guess, a sense of urgency and yeah, kind of quiet activism, I suppose. But that one was playing with an effect that I'd learned about in After Effects, where you can make a still image into a three-dimensional space. Well, quasi three-dimensional space. So it feels like you're kind of being able to drift down through a forest that's just a 2D image. Yeah, you kind of see a kind of distant landscape, and you kind of parallax move across it. It's quite at certain points is quite a convincing illusion, but then it's just, yeah, you kind of it plays with that line of knowing that something's real and something's and wanting to suspend your disbelief, but then also knowing that it's just sort of something that's purely artificial. So yeah, that was the movement between those two, and I could see in the works that you made kind of various aspects from those different films. So there was Chris Wright's one. Oh, cool. Yeah, Chris Evans is one. Sorry, Chris Wright Evans, Chris Evans, where it was really, it was almost like it reminded me of the wax food that you see in in Japan specifically, like outside of restaurants. You always have, rather than having kind of a menu stuck up, they sometimes have that as well, but there's often a whole like cabinet full of wax food, so you can expect to see noodles and kind of teriyaki chicken, but all made out of wax. And it's sort of, you know, then you have these kind of great big bits of chicken in the middle of a street, and then you have the cave paintings in the middle of a kind of I don't know, a large plain on top of a hill. It's sort of this incongruity and yeah, sort of encounters with nature, but not sort of. I mean, it always has that thing from the Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, of wanting to kind of be close to this thing and have some sort of possession over, I don't know, a deer, but like you can see that it's a little bit pixelated and it kind of has a repetitive motion, and it's not actually there with you. It had a lot. It was kind of. It felt. Yeah, there was to me there was a kind of an anxiety about that relationship to the augmented reality, really, and then yeah, in your work, Chris Wicker, it almost became to me such a overload of that kind of commercial imagery. And about, I mean, lots of it is actually quite funny, like the repetition, the oh gross kind of like just bringing, yeah, it's kind of, I guess, semi-nostalgic for me, even though actually like none of that those products were aimed at me when I was a child. I'm much too old for that, but like it's like it kind of had that sense of like 80s He-Man like adverts, and you know they don't change that much really, do they? But it's over the years. But it was really it became like a just a condemnation of, I guess, consumption, also capitalism as a system, kind of creating this want out of nothing. You know, there's the military industrial complex in there with all the Nerf guns. It's like all these different parts of culture that then kind of made kidified. You know, the beauty industry, etc. So it's kind of put together. And then Melissa's yours was much more contemplative, I thought, and really, I'm quite, I think the feeling that should we accept now? There's kind of a feeling like it felt quite angry about the world and the destruction of the planet, and how we kind of we dream of a better place, but what's the point in dreaming? Because we want to actually make a better place. Got to live, I don't know, in reality to actually change things. So I don't know, does that seem like a fair reaction to your pieces, Melissa?
There's definitely a lot of anxiety, and I would say anger for sure. At the end, I would say that at the end of the video, I tried to have a sort of redemption or something like that. But I think at the time that I'm making it, it's I have a pessimist point of view, but pessimist until you see things changing, or people taking it upon themselves to of course, like do something, or just see things for the way that they are. That's all that is.
Yeah, I liked that, because it's your videos really, Melissa, is making a point to try to establish a baseline. Like, this is where we are. We need to all meet at this point to acknowledge what is actually the things that are happening. Like, you're using images that look like maybe like drone footage along the border, I'm guessing, because and then like the trees falling, like very violent imagery, right? Like the falling trees and the lightning. Establish a baseline so that we can move forward there. I thought that was I liked the unexpected take from you dream, everyone is told to dream big, right? And you were like, no, don't see with your eyes, And the soundtrack was really kept me on edge the whole time. Cool.
Yeah. What was that soundtrack?
I was curious about that as well.
Oh yes. So that's kind of that was the number one thing that I started out with, even making the video, is I knew that I wanted to use. I don't know if you can tell. You can't, because you can see me up here, but I'm pregnant right now, and so I knew that I wanted to use the sound from my baby's second sonogram. And it's just basically his heartbeat that I altered in Audition.
Wow.
And so I kind of wanted to have that rhythmic sound throughout the video, because it's one of those things where, I want to speak directly to him. And, we think about and we talk about the future generations and the state of the world and etc. And, I wanted to use his heartbeat, or the digital rendering of his heartbeat in the video for sure. So.
Yeah, that makes so much sense now.
That adds a lot more. Go ahead.
No, I was going to it must have taken a long time to get all those clips together, Chris. It was huge number, and I've done a fair bit of appropriative video, and I know how hard it is to find the bits that actually are great within. It takes a lot of scrubbing.
There's something really great about those videos existing just on YouTube. Like there's multiple videos of commercial breaks from certain time periods of like I went through like a list of years from like 2000 to 2006 on certain channels, like Cartoon Network 2000 commercials, and there's like a bunch of different results of commercial breaks that are ranging from 10 minutes long to sometimes an hour long, of all these commercials that someone has painstakingly just put together. For some reason, I'm still trying to figure out why someone's done that. But for me, it's great because I can just use them and scrub through. However, it is to echo what you said, to find those bits of gold is really it takes a minute to get all those together. I wanted to touch on something that Chris said about Melissa's really quickly. Of he said something along the lines of like dream big, or we're always taught to shoot for the stars, but when I was thinking about dreams, or when I was viewing your piece, Melissa, and like the idea of dreaming big, or those dreams that seem like they are totally surreal or from someone's imagination, that are all colorful or full of life. I was thinking about those, and I was like, isn't that what a dream is supposed to be? Or isn't that what we think of dreams? But then I started to think about how people dream about stuff from their actual life, or they like someone, I've heard a lot of people talk about how they wake up, or they think that they wake up and go through their day or their daily routine in their dream, and then they wake up just to do it all over again. So it was something where you're pulling these pieces of found footage from real life, or actuality, and in my mind, the sequences between the found footage and the portions of the video that are just dark with text on the bottom really kind of simulate for me that like idea of trying to close your eyes and trying to dream, or like trying to fall asleep, but you're just getting these kind of violent or negatively charged kinds of imagery that you're pulling from real life, or that you see on the news every day, or that you're in contact with. So I just thought it was an interesting kind of take of dreaming, and how we're supposed to, like Chris said, dream big or have these really fantastic dreams, but we can't all the time. Sometimes they are nightmares of the real world. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had a question associated with that, but I just wanted to kind of touch on that. I do have a question for David. When I was viewing these how-to videos that you have made, I was really kind of taken aback by the language that you were using, or like the commonalities between a regular how-to video and your how-to video. Well, I don't want to say regular because there's a lot of different how-to videos out there. But as you said earlier, you're using that kind of language of like someone talking to the camera directly, or someone talking to the person that that is only one person is watching this video at one time, or like there's some sort of relationship that's formed there, just with I think even by saying like hi there, or hi guys. I think you start off a couple of those just by saying hi guys. So from there, I was just looking up how-to videos, and like there's so many of these how-to videos that exist on the internet, whether it's like how to change your air filter in your 2007 Nissan Altima, to like how to cook the perfect spaghetti or something along those lines. There's so many in those, or there's a wide range or broad scope of all of these how-to videos, and they don't get accessed all the time. Like those air filter Nissan videos, no one is watching those like every day. It's like, oh yes, another air filter Nissan video. I'm so excited to see this person do this. I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily watch those all the time. But there's so many of those duplicates as well. There's so many of those air filter videos, or there's so many ways to make the perfect spaghetti, you know? So I was just wondering if you could speak on like the duplication of all of these kinds of how-to videos that exist throughout. I mean, mostly YouTube now, but mainly they're everywhere. From YouTube to TikTok to social media, people are showing you how to do something. So if you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I think it you know, it comes from a lot of places. You know, sometimes it's just people being kind of almost nerdily helpful. Like I'm a great mechanic. People are always asking me how to do things, so therefore I'm going to make something about how to change the air filter. and it's just filmed with their phone and like kind of, yeah, you just put your hand in here. Like, you know, I mean, I've used some of those for our car when like there's some weird emergency light or something, and like changing the light bulb, like it's not immediately obvious, and it's the sort of, it's like it's often kind of root into a sort of secret knowledge. So yeah, like it's things that people who work with the thing all the time know. Like, I mean, that's why it's so great for kind of computer programs like Photoshop or Premiere or anything like that, because it's advice given by people who use it on a daily basis to people who are either starting out or kind of just have a casual interest in something, and it's like, oh God, how do I move a thing in SketchUp? This is so annoying. Like kind of, and then so you do the how-to thing, and it's like, well, what you need to press this and do this. But then there's also, I think, a kind of a professionalized class of how-to videos where people have realized that there is this need for specific types of how-to things. Mostly, what I've come across is mostly to do with either video games, making kind of illustrations, often, certain specific skills that people think can be monetized, that in some weird way, like video games can be monetized, like kind of like becoming a professional Twitch streamer or something. You know, people see this as like a route to money and stuff, but. So the people who make how-to videos for those areas, you know, they can have like 100,000 views. They can have, you know, like 500,000 subscribers because they show you how to, I don't know, paint a miniature perfectly or something, you know, like a little miniature or something. It's like the specific geek pursuits have these sort of areas, and it starts to, once you kind of get on that treadmill, then you just need to keep producing more and more content, and that sort of becomes like an avalanche of knowledge about something. But often, you know, but kind of from, I guess, you know, at that point they're almost like professional teachers, because they're getting money from the subscriptions and the YouTube subscriptions, and then it's like, you know, that's like their job to produce these videos once a week or something. So it's it really comes from two quite distinct places, like the amateur and the semi-professionalized. These new methods of livelihood. Is that what you were asking about?
Yeah, no, definitely. The amateur and the professional kind of mixture there is really great and interesting, because there is, you know, especially with YouTube, there is a way for someone who is just you know, as you said earlier, like the tech nerd, or someone who's just like, I just really want to help people out and show them how to do this thing in After Effects. You know, there is a place for those videos and those people that are doing that. However, there are, you know, the more professional, or, you know, they're coming from somewhere else that has a big corporation, or whatever you want to call it, and they're putting out, you know, professional how-to videos, and they may have that accompanied with like, you can buy my plugin here, or, you know, it's always a way to spin something that they're selling, or something along those lines, because they're showing you how to use the plugin that they've made. But it also reminds me of the just sheer volume of 5-minute crafts that exist on the internet. Like the tasty videos too on Facebook, or like all the cooking tutorials that are like how to make the best meatballs in 5 minutes.
I mean, that brings sorry to interrupt, Chris, but
Go for it.
when I was David, also, I don't think I understood like how recently like How to Live and How to Fly were made, you know, that they were concurrent with the lockdown. But like when I was beginning to like research on this project, I did like I typed in how to into Google Analytics, and like right around like March or April, like how to hit like its all-time high of like Google ability, you know. And so you know, it's a you know, people are like were forced into a position where they had to, you know, teach themselves. And I guess this kind of brings up like the thing that I was most interested, or like really drawn to your videos, was this kind of like Trojan horse element. You talked about it earlier with this kind of like casual way of like bringing someone in, and then there is this like switch that happens like in How to Fly. It's when I really think it's when you show the script and you realize that the things that you've been saying have already been scripted and we're about to move into something else, you know. That I wonder what how people, because you're bringing in a lot of ideas that aren't necessarily related to the things that you're trying to teach. So there's this almost kind of like subversive way of delivering information. And with the rise of how to, and people looking at how to's, it's like there's obviously benefits to delivering information in this kind of subversive way, but how do you, like maybe in more of like a practical sense, like, you know, people can also deliver malicious information, presumably in the same way. I was thinking a lot about that, like while I was working on this project.
Yeah, I was much more aware of that this time around with these videos, that it's off, that, you know, that form of, in a way, the exposure of the manipulation in some ways was quite important, in that you know, it was always, there was always that sense with mass media that you know, are there secret messages being put through, or are we being manipulated by I don't know, these large corporations, etc. But it's much more, I think it's much more, in some ways, much more dangerous and pervasive. How I mean, just look at the YouTube algorithms. Like, they take you to pretty much QAnon stuff without, like, just with a few clicks. You click on a thing, and then you're not even that interested in this thing, but then in the search bar, it's like kind of, it gets to pretty extreme right-wing stuff really quickly. And then yeah, it's sort of, and it's using that sort of it's the tone of voice, or it's the method of delivery, it's the you know, being media literate today it's like it's an essential life skill, not to be kind of to kind of, this stuff is like properly dangerous in terms of like just wasting your life on ideas that just make no sense, you know. So I think in some ways, yeah, I was aware of it, and I was trying to counter it, but I guess I was also playing with it, because it's a possibility. Like, we you know, like, I cry at films, I watch films and I cry, but I know that they're actors doing it, and they're reading a script, and there's people pointing cameras at them. Like, there's, you know, artifice and reality. You know, sometimes a performance can be more real than the thing happening to you, in a weird way. Like, kind of, it distills something, it kind of has this cathartic effect. So yeah, it's a strange space, and one that I'm still kind of coming to terms with, I guess. And at art school, there was way back when I was in art school, like 15 years ago, where like theatricality was seen as like the most base, the thing that you had to avoid at all costs, because it showed that you were trying to manipulate the audience and things. And it's like, well, that's kind of the nature of art. It's like some form of manipulation. You want, you want someone to feel something. You want someone to understand a certain point of, you want to create empathy somehow. And how do you do that is often through the exaggeration of something, the kind of, showing it in a certain light. So I think it's a very, very complex sort of mixture of, I don't know, it's that it's a manipulation, but you kind of suspend that disbelief in order to kind of, I don't know, commune in some ways. It's like to share an idea together to then, kind of get through to this next thing. I think, and I do think the fact that it kind of, both these works sort of subvert themselves from within, helps to undermine that idea of the thing as authority in some ways. And I think that's quite important.
There was, you're talking about like the artifice of like these kinds of videos and works. And I was really looking at that as far as like How to Fly and the use of Grand Theft Auto as like your filming kind of playground, or your set, if you want to use film terms. Or you said earlier of like, these are actors on a set, but they're still like, pulling something out of you. They're still garnering some sort of emotion. And there's a line in How to Fly that I was really stuck on, or a set of lines that was crossing into the space that is neither here nor there. We are not in the environment. We are not even in our bodies. And then categorizing it as a space without time or place. And that was really like, it made itself evident, especially with using Grand Theft Auto footage, or any kind of video game footage that's like trying to make a simulation of a real world. Granted, some get closer than others, or the goal of that is to get as close to real life as possible, or kind of simulate it, because I know Grand Theft Auto's like weather and time isn't like synced up to our own time, or it's a sped up version. However, there are some forms of like video games that do have that in like real time clock and real time kind of weather. So it really made itself evident that it's like neither a space here nor there. It's just like something that exists, that we just kind of run to, or exist in, as far as, or we go to. I don't know how to really put it, but someone took the time to program or code, or some computer develop this world that we're existing inside our own world, or like the real world, but it's still a simulation at the end of the day. And I was just curious if you were thinking of that in this work and some of your previous work, of that kind of space. I know you said it in the how-to video, but I was just curious if you were thinking about that in your work.
Yeah, I've always been interested in the virtual space. In some ways, I started thinking about it partly because I'm a gamer. Like that's part of my existence. But it was also as a way to try and express like the imaginary space. So how do we? I guess it comes down to old stuff like what is reality, etc. So, I've always been interested in that kind of and almost, I guess, Lacanian stuff. I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down in the technical stuff, but like the self and other, and then seeing the self in in something else. So like an avatar. So it's kind of in Lacanian terms, it's the petit objet out, which is like this, the little piece of yourself which is out there in the world. And it might be your hand that you see in the camera or something, but it might also be like the avatar that's walking through Red Dead Redemption. It's like, that's your little bit of it that you're controlling, but your movements are largely controlled by the computer itself, because it's giving you certain stimuli. It's kind of saying, well, there's a shot coming from the left. Well, I've got to turn now. So, and if you don't press certain buttons at certain times, you die. So you kind of do it again and do exactly what the computer tells you to do. So there's often this feeling of agency, this feeling of control, but actually, you're often being controlled by the system and its architecture. And then obviously you kind of take a step back and think, well, that's kind of quite interesting and sort of has parallels with how societal systems work in the world for humans. So it's so then, the virtual starts mapping onto the real. And, then you start thinking about, I don't know, the monetary system or something, it's pretty virtual, really. I mean, it's all electronic money, and we can like print more of it if we want, but we choose not to because we like this, differences of wealth, etc. So it's sort of, it all becomes kind of mixed together in a kind of weird way. And the virtual for me has been, it's like a space of collective dreaming in a way. It's you play a game. I mean, how Larry Achimpong and I started really forming a friendship was that we started reminiscing about video games, and we kind of talk about Zelda Ocarina of Time, and we talk about Metal Gear Solid, and we both played these games but at different times. It's like having watched the same film. It was kind of like sharing memories. We knew about I don't know, stupid lines in Resident Evil or something, like, oh, what a mansion, like, and these would become our kind of our tropes, our kind of shared cultural markers that then kind of transcended these gaps that we had between both between me being white, him being black, and like, we're both Londoners. There were lots of things we had in common, but the games somehow brought us together more as a space that we'd lived in together, and so kind of to bring that into Finding Fun on 2, which is a work where we first used Grand Theft Auto 5. It made so much sense somehow to see our two avatars next to each other, imperfectly formed, but sort of semi-recognizable as us, walking through the landscape and kind of running through the rain and experiencing these different places, only able to kind of do very simple expressions. You can kind of lift your arm and kind of walk in particular ways and stuff. You become very aware of the constraints when you start using it in that way, that it has this veneer of veracity, but then a bit like you Chris Evans's work, where you kind of it's always, the closer you look, the more it breaks down. Like a foot will go through a pavement, or like it's like the shadows don't quite work, or Larry's haircut didn't exist in the game. Like all these things kind of start interrupting that that idea of the perfect simulacrum, the matrix of Neo, etc. That somehow we'd be fooled into thinking that we're living in this alternate world. It's I guess it's been a journey through virtuality as much as through life, really, if that makes any sense. There was a work I made in, when was that, 2013, which was with my father. He's a landscape painter, and he will draw the same tree every day in the year and stuff, watching the seasons change. And I wanted to somehow bring him into my experience of landscape, which was backgrounds from fighting games. So I asked him to draw backgrounds from fighting games, from kind of, they're all like, they're mostly 16-bit stuff, like Street Fighter Alpha 2, Fighters 99, all these sort of, and all these interesting sort of, often visions of, actually visions themselves of different cultures. So it'll kind of be like a vision of what Rio looks like, or a vision of what the African savannah looks like, or something. And so he drew those, and then I made a video where we walked through them, through these kind of animated 16-bit backgrounds as 16-bit avatars, discussing the process and discussing art and discussing our relationship and our different opinions about what it is to be an artist. I mean, my dad expresses his kind of very firmly held conviction that you know, everything in the work should be made by yourself, and and then kind of talks about my work being it's just a self-portrait, isn't it? And kind of like, it was, some fun stuff came out of that. But that's on my website if anyone wants to watch it. It's called Backgrounds.
You touched on, or Chris, were you about to speak?
I had a question related to the virtual. It's like, and I guess the question is like, when do we need to? I mean, I feel like maybe we're already to a point where the distinction need not be made. You know, that they are kind of already one and the same. You know, and especially like working with AR and seeing what is already convincing, and that like maybe that you know, at some point, you know, the world I see won't. Right now, I have this impression that maybe what we look out on, you know, is somehow vaguely the same. But you know, at some point, as like we wear glasses or we become more attached to our screen, like the thing that I'm going to see through my viewfinder or whatever is like won't look anything like yours. You know, like maybe I'll have the Google images and you'll have the Amazon or like some whichever. You know, the separation, like the importance of the distinction between the two, maybe. Like, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's possible that there'll be an increasing kind of, it's not a word, but siloization of the world. So and you see it in online communities now that people gravitate towards the things that they love, and that's often kind of popular cultural artifacts, like kind of a particular game or a particular book or a particular, you know, and whole fandoms kind of exist around that, and then there'll be a community around that, and then they'll kind of see there'll be things that are conventional and things that are unconventional within that community, which kind of looks completely crazy from outside, because it's like, well, you all like the thing, don't you? You like the thing? No, these people are wrong about this thing. Anyway, like, but then, like you say, there's going to be, you know, with different, especially, I mean, AR is going to be really strange, like how it's going to filter certain communities' views of reality, and then there's going to be, of course, like a huge part of the world which just has no access to this technology at all, and there's going to be almost this these different strata of understanding or kind of access. It feels like it's going to be another way of exacerbating kind of difference and exacerbating in a way, this difficulty of empathy, like it kind of separates off people from each other. And so losing touch with a kind of common humanity often. But yeah, I don't see it as being something that's truly avoidable. It's just one of those things that's going to happen now. So you know, you can do the hippie thing and escape to the woods, but it's like, you know, it's going to happen for a whole bunch of people, and it's going to shape how the world proceeds, I guess. I mean, I look at the change that smartphones have made to the world. You know, that was utterly unforeseen. But it's, yeah, I mean, in many ways we're all cyborgs now. You know, it's like part of your brain is in your pocket. It's like kind of, I don't need to retain these parts of information because I know I can just Wikipedia that bit, or I can like have my to-do list there, and I don't have to kind of keep it in my head. It can just, like, you know, I know that I can go back to it, and it's like it's kind of so integral to how we just exist and how we kind of continue that it's just, yeah, it's there as part of our lives now.
I think that kind of comes across really well in Chris's video of like the sheer amount of AR apps there are. I mean, I'm thinking of like, you know, there of course are the more popular ones. Like I think Pokemon Go is like one of the big AR like things. You can even turn on a filter that's like real world in Pokemon or like fake simulation. But like just having that kind of volume of it definitely speaks to what you're touching on, of like, this is part of our brain, like our part of our brain is in our pocket, or that distinction, as Chris was talking about earlier, is like becoming smaller or being more blurred, or and I think Chris kind of touches on like not the beginnings of like AR or how it first began, but like earlier versions of these models, or, you know, getting closer to them and the pixels are breaking down, or it's still not quite there yet. However, there are definitely those that are getting closer to that real world feel, which I found really interesting. And it also like accompanied with that robotic voice that's narrating the entire thing. It felt like some sort of like broken robot simulation that's like, hey, we're we're getting here. Like, this is our first step into that blurred line of simulation and actuality. And here we have the Shovak Cave to show you what this means, or what this can mean for the future. Was that only the only model that you found, or I was curious about that.
I think that the design team for Google was obviously had you know, were very thoughtful about the kind of models that they released first. You know, doing the research, it all kind of seemed to cascade together between the cave wall and then the kinds of animals that they had on their platform, the ones that they prioritized to put out first. So, you know, someone thought about it, you know, so they had the Chauvet caves, they had the bear and the deer, and then they have the, and then the closest other thing to like an environment, I would say, is the lunar rover. Sorry, someone's looking in on me. Yeah, it's the lunar rover. So like, in some sense, like, it followed the structure of the movie Koyaanisqatsi. You know, it begins in a cave and ends with a rocket blast. And then, you know, watching Cave of Forgotten Dreams, the Werner Herzog documentary, he does a lot of the heavy lifting on trying to indicate the importance of and like how paradigm shifting, like the making marks that resemble our world are, you know, and that it's being echoed right now with our smartphones, you know. And so yeah, so the Chauvet caves were the only model, you know. I expect to see more, I'm sure.
And a pile of ribs from Chili's also. That was great to see. Melissa, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It kind of touching on something that I mentioned earlier of and we've talked a little bit about of the dreaming big, or for me, when I was thinking about dreams, it's like the surreal kind of colorful landscape, but you're using these images that aren't that necessarily aren't that. However, they're still handled in a way that makes them feel a little surreal, or either in like the presentation of like, oh, this is actually happening within our world, like the surreal aspect of coming to grips with this existing in our world, but also the way you've handled the footage, whether it's reversing it with the trees coming down, or I guess going back up in this case, or like the layering on top of footage of the drone footage. So I was just curious where, or if you could speak a little bit about that kind of process of speaking about dreams, or making a video centered around dreams using actual footage, but still getting that step into a dreamlike quality. At least that's what I was noticing in the video.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I noticed when I was making the video, right? You know, because it's a fresh film for me, and so I'm still kind of processing the stream of consciousness that I was trying to channel, even in making it. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but then I thought, you know, how can I use this footage, this found footage that that was kind of exhilarating for me to find. You know, a bunch of this footage, I mean, of course, everybody can find it on YouTube and things like that. But, you know, I also came across, you know, the drone footage on the FBI's website, actually. And I was just so drawn to the way that these images, you know, can see, the way that these cameras can see us from far away, and then even some of the overlaying that I did were images of the microscopic, you know, seeing something very, very close up, or a digital rendering of that, and yeah, just how these things look, of course, and then and I guess yeah, I'm not really sure, because I think that images, and then the way that people see them, I can't control the way that people will, you know, will react, or that sort of thing. But I know what I want to talk about, and I know that, you know, these images have like these underlying meanings, because we create them, like, you know, what David and Chris are talking about. You know, we as, you know, we come up with the way that we react to things, and what we make. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit right now, but I was thinking a lot about, like, kind of what David was mentioning, the theatrics, the emotions, you know, the artifice, you know, it comes from us, and it comes from something deeper, and we know that it's fake, and whatever, and we know somebody wrote this script, and somebody, you know, made these images, but it comes from somewhere, and that's kind of where I am with the film, and I, you know, in my stream of consciousness, and you know, just beneath it all, I wanted to, you know, overlay, you know, those images with a meaning that was very, you know, it's very relevant, like what everybody's talking about. So I don't know if you have like another question, maybe it can like kind of center me a little bit in terms of the film, but
No, I was just curious about the kind of the process of where how those kind of came together, So you definitely answered my question there. I believe we are running a little short on time today, even though this has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it a lot. And, if we could go for a little while longer, I definitely could, but I know people have places to be and things to do, me included. So I wanted to thank David for being here today, and also Melissa and Chris for being a part of this project. I really do appreciate the responses that you both made, and it's really been a pleasure to work on this project with you guys. So
thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot, David.
No, thank you very much, Chris and Chris and Melissa.
Thank you, David. So nice to meet you. Thanks, Chris.
Great to meet you too.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.